It's just, and I wanted to have that name as well, or rather go through that story because it's for people listening is like it's a good way to pay attention to where you are right now with your body shape. Like if you feel like that's a good cue to use is like there's habitual eating which we're all used to doing. You know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You might have some snacks in between, but then if you actually pay attention to yourself and you go, wait, hang on a second, am I actually hungry? And if you consistently find yourself saying, no, I'm not actually hungry, then chances are that you don't need to eat as much as you're eating, right?
Hmm.
Especially if you're trying to maintain your weight or if you're trying to lose weight. That's a good indication for you right there. So just like kind of pay attention to that feeling of wait, what's going on here? Do I actually need to eat? How full am I before I even eat this meal? Am I just eating for the sake of eating, or am I actually needing to eat here? Am I hungry enough to justify the amount of food that I'm going to be consuming right now? And if the answer is no, then all right, I'm just going to taper it back a little bit. I don't need to eat as much as that, and still enjoy it.
Hmm.
Still have the foods. Um, yeah, still be mindful of what you're eating. Still enjoy the food, but don't just. There's just a sign that says don't go overboard. So for me, I'm basically waiting it out until I start to feel hungry. So, and I do this once in a while anyway. I have these fasting days where I just don't eat until my body just says go and eat,
Hmm.
and whatever time it is now is like mid afternoon on a Sunday. Um, Hunger's starting to kick in, but it's not
Hmm.
quite at the level where I'm like, yeah, I can eat a meal. So, because I haven't eaten yet, so this means I haven't eaten in 20 hours because I started last night, probably about 6ish or something last night. So yeah, so that's why I was honest about that, and because
Uh,
I think there's a lesson in it as well. Because it's just pay attention. It happens to the best of us. He's like you look at us as like we're coaches, and
hmm.
yeah, we are a hell of a lot more aware. I mean, I noticed this within 3 days. Basically, I was like, okay, there's several days where I just feel like I'm a bit too full, and so I'm just going to go back to eating. Normally, I'll probably just because of water weight that comes with eating more, the weight in sitting, the food sitting in your gut, I'll probably go back to 77, and
Hmm.
things will be fine. So so yeah, so I thought that was a story worth sharing.
It's interesting, man. It's really interesting. I like the thoughts around habitual eating. This is something that I
Mm,
definitely have some repetitions in from back in the day. And eating out of emotion and eating out of lack of awareness, I think is and also eating as a feedback loop. You know what I mean? So like
yeah.
we feel a certain way, we subconsciously we feel a certain way based on our emotions, based on something that's happened to us. And again, this ties back into the conversation we were having earlier around dealing with yourself and understanding your own biases. So what I would do is feel a certain way by the day, potentially because of overexertion or potentially because of just expenditure in different
Mm,
directions. That can be through conversations, that can be through actual physical work, it can be through anything. And then on the back end of that, the body will be in a place where it's like, okay, well we've had output in some direction, we've had something take from us. Um, and in that moment, sometimes your only route is okay. Well, we can fill ourselves up again now. Like go and do the thing that makes you feel good, and go and kind of indulge in a meal or um, yeah, indulge in a meal, and that can be such a strong set pattern that I think people because the chemical makeup of meals and why because it's such a institution culturally and even just all over the world, like we have these huge warehouses where we go and we just pick food we like and everything is there and the variety is there. I feel like that ease of access gives us so much and advertisements there and yeah, everybody knows about food, right? It's just such an obvious go-to um, that we just form around it, right? And I think based on look at the rest of the world in some places where food's not as available, I would say that it's definitely not the same. You know, what I mean, the same kind of presentation of okay, you feel a certain way. Here's a simple way out. It doesn't show up because maybe sometimes it won't be an option for people, or it's never been an option. You know what I mean? And in those parts of the world, I guess that you'd have to go somewhere else for that fix, and you wouldn't have the same issues that we have here. and that somewhere else that fix can be hopefully space where you stop and actually again you look at yourself and you think, oh shit, I'm doing this thing, and I don't need to. I don't need to kind of run this same route, run this same pattern. And yeah, that has so many benefits, right? Especially in this setting of like dieting and understanding how you've accumulated weight, because I can say personally for myself that having happened to me in my life, it definitely wasn't because I was hungry. You know what I mean? It was definitely wasn't because I was constantly that hungry that I wanted to be there. Obviously, there's a training element to it. There's a goal element to it as well, in terms of me wanting to gain weight, to be strong in the gym, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, because of the lack of other stimulation, because of the lack of other direction or even input, you run the same patterns again and again and again and again and again, and that can just be your way. It turns into your way until you stop to question it, and that's, if I look back on the story and look back on the journey and say, yeah, that's definitely what happened at a certain point. Is that you stop. You need someone to be like, okay, look, let's put the brakes on for a second, and look at how food is actually appearing in your life. Um, and I still do it now. I still definitely have moments of just kind of absent-mindedness around food. And I think this, and it's not just absent-mindedness, but it's like coping mechanism where it's okay. I need to feel like I've felt okay again. I felt kind of cared for because I haven't fulfilled or even filled my tank in other ways. This is a simple way that I can kind of go to and say, look, I'm looked after right now, and that comfort is what I was looking for in the first place. But me attaching other things to that and saying, okay, I can go here and get that. Me attaching what we talk about all the time, which is fulfillment and gratification in the moment for feeling and doing a certain act. Well, that can be enough sometimes. You haven't got to go then look for the boost of serotonin in your brain or dopamine in your brain that tells you you've done a good thing from food, even though that's a really well wired pathway. You can then start to look to other things that will give you that same response without calorically adding to your body and then upsetting the chemical balance, and then potentially even upsetting yourself with food. This is I think a thing that happens a lot is people don't realize that they'll initially start eating and then feel a certain way while they're eating their meal, and then be like, oh well, I don't actually want this, or by the end of the meal it's like, oh, I'm back in that unhappy place. So what do? I just run the same pattern again, and I go again and I go again and I go again. It's That's 100% the thing. I think I can definitely say that it's been definitely been there at some points where you just feel, okay, well, I'm going to rely on this thing, which is giving me what I know it can give me, but then afterwards you're left with still the same lack of answers that you had before.